Oh, welcome to the breakdown. Declassified. This is Aaron Barker with me as always. Erica Sauer. Good evening, Erica. How are you?
I'm good. Good evening.
Awesome. Now, if you're listening to the show in the free preview, all you have to do is go over to aaronbarker.substack.com. It's there you can sign up for the show and get all the new updates whenever I put updates out there. Any new articles that I'm writing, anything like that, all that stuff can be over there at aaronbarker.substack.com. This is a very mellow kind of intro tonight. I mean, like I'm feeling like I got like a little bit of a head cold, so I'm not going through the motions, but I'm like getting through the intro so we can get into the meat of the episode tonight, which really do we have a direction ish. We have Erica who's thrown out a topic there and very excited to talk about it because you wanted to talk about this last week, Erica. So like what is when you think about it, I mean, like the contemporary philosopher and theologian Jimmy Buffett once said, um, we have to talk about accountability. Someone's got to raise some hell. I guess it should be me.
Well, okay.
Your face on that one was just like, what?
Amen. I mean, yeah, well done. How about that
Thank you.
then?
Thank you.
Okay. Um, I it we can take it into terms of current events eventually, but that's not where it started, right? I brought up, hey, maybe we should talk about accountability because it was smacking me in the face for like professionally, personally. And then this term emotional intelligence keeps getting thrown around in the midst of all this accountability. And I realize I'm being very cryptic and you can't possibly understand, right? So, um, I'll give you the personal example, right?
Okay,
I
that's
went to a funeral, right?
yeah. I'm sorry to
And
hear that, by the way.
it's okay. Um, Thank you. The woman who passed away is someone that I've known since seventh grade, but in the last probably decade, well, I can't say just since COVID, but that may have made it incredibly accelerated, right? But she definitely, I mean, she committed suicide by alcohol.
Oh
Eh,
my goodness.
okay, and I say committed suicide by alcohol because I've never seen a family, her husband, who I've known all my life, who's one of my best friends, it just so happened that he married her and she and I were in school together, right? Um, his reaction, along with the 13-year-old and the 12-year-old boy that have been going through this, was something I've never when have I ever been like, "Wow, I don't know what to say right now?" That doesn't happen to me very often, right? But he's talking to me about going through this because I haven't seen him in probably 5 years. So I would guess and it's not something you announce, right? Um, they had to have her committed in a last attempt by taking away her rights. They had her committed forcibly. They took away her rights to parent, to take care of herself, to do anything, okay? Um And I these this I just have no okay, so I listened to him say, "My kids are" we were talking about the boys, and he was like, The kids are gonna be fine." I said, "What do you mean they're gonna be fine?" He's like, "I'm not doing it the way everybody else did it." And I was like, "What do you mean?" And he said, "Well," he's like, "They've been going through this. They've been dumping her drinks out, begging her to stop, suffering, not trying to understand why she would choose that over them, and he's not telling them alcoholism is a disease. She couldn't help it. He's absolutely telling them your mother may have been sick, but her sickness was mental, not physical. She could not make the right choice, and at one point she made a choice to do that. She made a choice. At one point, she had a choice to put it down. At some point, it took over, but at one point, she had a choice. And he is not allowing them to feel like he's forcing them to cope with that right off the bat. He said they've been with a therapist for the last couple years because it started affecting. Like, they couldn't go home to her by themselves. He would have to pick him up at the bus stop, take him to the office, bring him home at night. Like a complete disaster, you can imagine, right?
Yeah.
But I was like, "Okay, there's a pretty serious amount of anger here that I'm thinking is normal," but I've never heard that approach before of, like, holding someone accountable like that. And maybe it's just in terms of alcoholism that I've never heard it like that before, where you're actually gonna say that this person, it's not a disease. They could help it. At one point, they could help it. And I was struck by that level of holding someone accountable. Someone we just put in the ground while the Rolling Stones were playing like 5 hours ago.
What was the song?
I don't remember.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry. I
No.
should it's probably in the program, which is in my car, and I should know, but to tell you the truth, it was weird. Weird to the fact of, like, we all everybody kinda looked around like, "What are we doing right now?" Because, it's just a Catholic funeral, so we're literally in the cemetery while and there's prayers being said and the final blessing and whatever, but it then the we're all like, which usually a moment of silence was a moment of the Rolling Stones, which was appropriate if you knew her. That part was not super shocking, it was just weird, you just don't
Yeah.
usually see that at a Catholic funeral. Um, I found that approach so striking, and he just was like, "Is that supremely hardcore,
Huh.
or or is it just a first reaction?" But they've been going through this for years.
But it's almost like when you say they've been going through it for years, it's like somebody that is like you hear somebody passes away and you go to their
Mhm.
funeral and they pass away from cancer, like a 5, 10 year battle with cancer or whatever. And the husband or their spouse stand beside the casket doing the greeting line or whatnot. And it's like you expect them to be all completely shattered and they're upset, they're crying and such, but they're not destroyed. And you're like, man, that person's strong. And it's like, well, they're not necessarily strong. It's just they've been dealing with this for 5, 10 plus years. They've been going through this. So it's almost
Right.
like they're prepared, like it's about to happen. They know this is it's inevitable. You get the kind of death sentence there or whatnot that you're gonna pass. So I mean,
I
it's
just
almost like that because if they've been dealing with this, but I mean, death is still different because, in
well,
one
and
way.
I guess she was in the hospital for about a month while her liver and body completely shut down, right? So she's been out of the home for a month as well.
Yeah.
Um, it was just the pure this was her fault.
Yeah.
And there is nothing that any amount of love or any amount of yelling or any amount of pleading or any amount of needing to be a mom, like,
Nothing
sh
worked is what you're saying. Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
like, he was just like, "She chose this was her choice. There was nothing anybody could do, and we should none of us should feel responsible." I was
Yeah,
like, "Okay."
like on the surface, I think the desires always or the I guess desire, or the point is to try not to disparage the dead. Like, don't speak ill of the dead. I haven't said this to a family, and I don't think I would if I was doing a funeral or something like that, or at a hospital or something. But somebody commits suicide. I think I used to think that that was an incredibly selfish thing, and on the surface level, I do. I think it's selfish to make that decision to end your life by any means, if it's a slow process through addiction or if it's a
Y
sudden decision.
Yeah, is that even suicide? I mean, I called it that. Obviously, they don't call it that. She
Yeah.
died of alcoholism. Nobody's gonna say she committed suicide, but I'm just saying it that way because that's how it and that's definitely how this was being portrayed, and I found it from an accountability standpoint shocking,
Yeah.
right? But it affected me, so I took it back and, I came back, whatever. I go back to work, and the day that I got back, I'm still kinda like, I'm bitter about all of these realizations, by the way, in case you can't tell. Like, I'm mad about this. I'm mad that I even have to think about it.
Yeah, I understand. I understand.
I I come back and there's an issue with a girl that at work that works directly for me, right? And the issue is negativity. She
Gotcha.
works directly for me, right? Like I work 15 feet from her. She's in her office, whatever. And I'm in my office. It's not like we're in cubicles, but this girl reports to me. I do her review. She works for me, right? And I'm getting this information that there's negative feedback that she's being kind of downright shitty to people in the field, right? And in a way that would not be okay, especially when your whole tagline is real people, real hospitality.
Oh yeah.
Right? So, like, in good company, like, what do you that's what part of that do you not get, right? Um, so I'm like, "Okay." And, like, I sat down in my office because I was like, "I gotta take a minute. I have a million emails. I've been gone for 4 days. Now I have this problem that I have to deal with, and I don't wanna just jump into it and, let out whatever, like, "What the hell, Robin?" Right?
Yeah.
Like, what's going on? Okay, like, I am so I'm thinking, and I'm like first my approach was I'm gonna say, "I should ask her if she's okay," which is totally unlike me, and if I ask her that, she's gonna think she's getting fired. 'Cause I would never ask someone that. That's
Yeah.
totally unlike me, right? So, if I came
Kudos
to you
to
and I
you.
was like, "Are you alright?" Then people would be like, "Oh my god, she's about to
Holy
fire you."
crap.
Right. That'd be crazy.
Yeah.
So I'm like, "Alright, I can't take that route. I have to talk to her. I only have what's coming to me from the other side." Right? And I don't know where it came from, but I was like, "Okay, what if why?" You have to take into account too that I heard this from like one of the partners, not my portfolio manager, not the people that were be experiencing the negativity, right? I'm not getting it directly. It didn't go through HR and up the chain, right? It didn't my assistant didn't say, "I found this out. I'm hearing these complaints. We should probably talk to Robin." It came from one of the partners. So someone directly went straight to the top and was like, we think this is a problem." So I'm like, I'm the one who has to be accountable here, right?
Yeah.
And
She
how
should
do you
be
do
said.
because two things have happened. One, there's a person that's right underneath me that has gotten negative and I didn't know. And two, the people that were experiencing it didn't feel like they could come to me
Oh,
or
that's interesting.
up any chain of command, right? And people I work with every day. And we're all very close. It's a small company.
Well, you were out of
So
town too, so that could have been part of it.
no, no, there's a it could have waited until I got back, right?
That's true.
Like,
That's true.
not like, it's not like any paycheck was missing or an invoice didn't get paid or something that needed to happen, right? This was just an observation that I was told, right? And
Gotcha.
I was like, "Huh, okay. Well, that's weird, right? Why did I do that? Why did I do that?" Because I truly, in the back of my head, will tell you that pisses me off that I'm sitting in that spot right now.
Sitting in the spot that somebody went over your head, or so in the spot
No,
that you're
sitting in the
accountable
spot
for
where
them?
I have to hold myself accountable for someone else's actions,
Gotcha.
because I truly don't feel like I can possibly be responsible for anyone else's actions. But that isn't what accountability is it?
No, not really. I mean, like, especially if you're a leader and you've got people that are underneath you, ultimately everything goes through you. So, it's kind of like in the boardroom on the apprentice, right? The
Right.
project manager is the person it falls to, unless the person underneath them just screwed up poorly or they're amorosa or something like that.
To me, this felt like a gigantic realization, right? Like so much so that I started looking at certain things. I was like, I was looking at turnover trends over the last 5 years, right? Which, by the way, when I got into this part of it, I was like, I'm an effing rock star. right? Like, in the last 5 years, the voluntary turnover rate has gone from over 30% to less than 6.
Oh,
That's
wow.
huge.
How many
That's
years have you been doing this?
5. Oh, well, in the position that
In
where
your
I've been
position,
a
okay.
partner and moving, being able to affect and running the corporate office, we've gone from over 30 to less than 6 in voluntary turnover. So
Wow.
that's people leaving, right?
Yeah.
Involuntary turnover, it has dipped a little, went from like 9, we're fired about 9% 5 years ago. It's down to almost like 6.8, almost 7. So, okay, we're firing less. Like, that's good. I would still like that to go down 0 to 0. But still, I was like, okay, let's not, let's not put all our eggs in one basket, right? But for me, that's a huge thing. How many people? Because I until that point, I would have considered myself. I'm like, yeah, of course, I hold myself accountable. Look at all my deliverables.
Yeah.
Well, on paper, it looks great. Who holds themselves accountable for other people's actions? And should you or shouldn't you? And then if you want to put that into current events and your posts that have been on Facebook recently,
Oh,
I
my
would
interesting
go
posts on Facebook, yeah.
I would go to the event, and I don't know, to tell you the truth of how much I've paid attention to it, I don't know either of the gentlemen's names, either the young man that died or the young man that stabbed him,
Oh,
right?
yeah, 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 yeah.
Where, in light of the division and outrage it has caused, where should the accountability be? Where is it, right? It's all on the young man who can't take it. He's gone. At this point, the accountability is all on the person who cannot in any way, shape, or form hold himself to that.
It's interesting you say that because this is something that's been rolling around in my head for, a couple of years, similar, not like the exact same thing, but very similar to what you're saying. It's like, my thing is people shouldn't be allowed to get away with what they get away with. Like they shouldn't be allowed to, I don't have road rage, but I do vocalize quite a bit while I'm on the road. And I don't understand why somebody can drive like a maniac and they're not held accountable for that. I don't understand why people get away with like pastors. I need to talk about my posts. I I make these posts, and I'm happy to talk about any of those, by the way, for anybody wondering. But like, I make those posts, and a pastor swings on the post and calls me a moron or a retard or un-American or a heretic, or calls me stupid, or says that I'm un-American and I'm lefty liberal communist and I need to leave the country. It's like, you're getting up on Sunday mornings in front of your congregation and you are purporting to speak the love of Jesus Christ. Now I know that there's like, well, what's love? But like you're talking about scriptures in the Bible that say every word is supposed to be seasoned with salt, so that we may impart grace to those who are listening. Jesus, it tells us, how can a bitter fountain, how can a fountain put forth both bitter water and sweet water? Right? How can we as people, or how can Christians say, and especially pastors say, that they are speaking the love of Jesus, and they get up on Sunday mornings and they get to preach their messages to their congregations who fawn all over them, but they're not held accountable for the fact that that week they've just mocked, called names, made fun of, did drive-by comments and in sections on Facebook, and did anti-Christian things. It's like, who holds that person responsible? They shouldn't be able to get away with it. And I don't know the whole situation on the other side with it. My thing about this, the uh Carmelo Anthony situation, was people had already labeled Carmelo Anthony a thug and a murderer, and they were getting onto him for being underneath a tent during a rainstorm. Like, we didn't even know a fraction of the facts and the fraction of the information that were out there. Yet
Yeah.
people were making judgments. He's a murderer. and this and that, all the things that they said.
I think
However,
it's
go
oh,
ahead,
no,
go ahead.
sorry, go no, go ahead.
I mean, like, but and the comparison I made was to Kyle Rittenhouse. Now it's obviously not the same, but you had one guy, we had a fraction of the information that was out. He was already a thug and a murderer. We didn't have any information out. Kyle Rittenhouse hadn't even been charged yet. And conservative pundits were like, oh, he's a hero. He's a patriot. We need to protect him at all costs. And they've raised almost $1 million plus. Actually, almost $1 million for this guy just on crowdfundings and GoFundMe things. It's not GoFundMe. It's the other one that's a Christian organization that's like the competitor of GoFundMe. And it's like, why didn't nobody's waiting for the information to be out. So we can't hold both of these parties accountable because we don't have we don't have all the information. And then the people who are out there making comments like, oh, he's a murderer, he's a thug, he needs to blah, blah. Like, who's going to hold you accountable? All your words. I mean, and if you believe the Bible, Jesus says every idle word will be judged. Every idle word, that's a paraphrase. Every idle word is going to be judged before God. So everything you say about somebody is going to be judged. I mean, there's going to be ultimate accountability, but who holds you to account now? Does that make sense?
Yes.
Am I way off base?
No, because my hope is for the impossible, right? First of all, you can't hold accountable the kid who's dead,
Right?
whose mouth may have overloaded his face, and whether or not we agree with what the retribution was,
Yeah.
he has to be accountable for his mouth overloading his face, but he can't. Well, he is. He's gone, I guess. He's
Yeah.
being held ultimately accountable. Maybe I have that backwards. It's not like this Anthony gentleman is going to come out and say, "Listen, what happened, what I did was wrong.
Right.
I shouldn't have had a weapon. I taunted him." We don't know, right? Or whatever, right? Um, that's not gonna happen. And now it's never gonna happen because he's as sensationalized as the gentleman who shot that United Healthcare guy in the back.
Hmm.
We're making them our heroes. It's very concerning to me.
Yeah. It is. There's all kinds of things that kind of go into this because and for years, and I've told people this, a long time ago, and back when Antifa first started, and I'm not for Antifa. I'm not saying that I am. I'm just saying back when the whole Antifa riots and all this stuff started. I mean, do you remember the 1%ers or the 99% or whatever it was,
Yeah.
or 98%, and then the Occupy Wall Street and everything? But Antifa is what I was thinking about. Like, these Antifa thugs would go out and they would do stuff and they would instigate violence, and then somebody would punch them in the face, and then the person that would punch him would be lauded. They're like, "Oh, this guy's awesome. He showed those punks what it was. They effed around and found out." And it's like, you're no better than Antifa. You're just a conservative Antifa. Because if you think that violence, if you think that you can strike somebody because of what they said, you're a snowflake. You can't take being called a fascist or a white supremacist or a moron or a fat ass or whatever it is. You can't take that. So you assault somebody. You know,
So
you're no better than that person on Antifa's side.
so that would lead me to the larger term that I stated, which I can't even the emotional intelligence.
Yeah.
You how do you teach that though? How do you teach someone that the correct and higher response, I mean, it would be different in every situation, but is to walk away? How do you how I don't know how you do that.
Wow. That's all self-control. Like you have to that is a great question because I'm not an expert. We're both parents. So I mean, the way that I've always, talked to my kids is I'm like, violence isn't, unless it's self-defense, unless you're in danger and you're about to be harmed, that's the last resort. Even to the point where I lost all my weapons in a fire, but When I replace those weapons, I would like to replace them with non-lethal weapons, like the opposite of Mel Gibson and Danny Glover. You know, uh,
Okay, so all right. So I mean, from a parenting standpoint, we're exact opposites, right? Like,
well, I mean,
well,
yeah,
you have
like you're
two.
a woman and I'm a
You have both girls,
yeah,
and
yeah.
I don't. And this is gonna. This is here we go. This is very sexist.
Mm.
um, my son is older. He has my daughter's 5 years younger, right? So number one, I raise him to be able to defend yourself. Like, you need to learn how to fight and know when to fight and know when not to fight. But you should never be afraid to fight, right? Like, that you need to know, and you will protect your sister at all costs, no matter what, in any situation, right? Um, but I I always taught her not to allow, do not, well, I don't know. Do your girls ever experience violence or, like, bullying at school? Stuff like that?
Not to the extent like physical stuff, not like I did when I was growing up. But like it's I mean, I yes, I there is a point. I'm not a pacifist where I think that I'm gonna like if I'm standing in my
I
foyer.
would never want them to act first.
Yeah,
I would
that's the
I
thing.
would never want them to have to act first, but I've always taught her to, the second that you are put in that situation, you let them know this isn't gonna happen more than this time.
Yeah, like, well, how do
Uh,
you, teaching somebody to not resort to violence, especially now in this climate that we have, where you are lauded for your assault against a communist or against a liberal or whatnot. It's like the terms snowflake are thrown around a lot. Oh well, the left is snowflake because they're triggered. Well, the right is just as much of a snowflake because they're triggered. Christians are triggered. Like if you use the word LGBTQIA plus ally, or if you say we're supposed to love people in the LGBTQ community, they melt down and lose their ever loving minds because they're triggered. Just like if you were to say MAGA to a liberal, their face is going to melt and they're going to go into convulsions because they're snowflakes. They can't take somebody else's opinion of something that they hate. You know, so
so the Jordan Petersons of the world, I don't know how you feel about Jordan Peterson, probably should have asked before I brought that name up.
doesn't matter.
Um, would tell you that those people are, triggered does not equal weakness. Triggered equals emotionally unintelligent.
Yeah,
Because you can be triggered as a very strong individual. You're still triggered. It
right.
doesn't, it's no, so because they get triggered and scream at the sky is actually less harmful than you being triggered and pulling out your pistol and waving it around in traffic,
Oh yeah, or actually
right?
shooting
I
somebody
mean,
in traffic. Yeah,
and I'm not justifying what they do. It's not, look, I'm not saying that I think needing a safe space is all of a sudden something I'm gonna tell you is a good thing, or, um, or I I don't I'm just trying to say that I think we all need to really take an assessment of ourselves.
I think what you're trying to say is we all need to grow the hell up. And I tell
I
Allison,
mean,
I mean,
you
go
t
ahead.
were you just gonna say you tell Allison to grow up all the
No,
time?
no, she tells me to grow up all the time. But I was like, okay, so we talk a lot. We have date nights at least once a week, and two if we can squeeze it in. But we go to a local church here that has an open foyer, and they give away free coffee and free soda. We go there, we get some lunch or dinner, whatever. We go over there, we eat, and then we sit down for several hours and just talk, just FaceTime, just talking to each other about any and everything. And she's noticed a trend. Like last year, our house burned down. Then I was in the hospital in April of last year, and then I almost died. Then in that trip, and then June when I had all this stuff I was put on Facebook, and then people were commenting, bashing me, and all that. And then there's some other things that happened in our life personally. Um, and then I started going through this the spiritual desert and this beginnings of deconstruction, etc. And I went from having this new lease on life, like, and we talked about this, to being like questioning God and being really angry and being really upset about stuff and getting really pissed off. And I kind of distilled all of it down because I tell Allison this, I tell this all the time when we talk about, because she's worried about my anger. I'm like the thing that I really wish I could just like that I wish could just happen is I wish people would just stop being assholes. I mean, they really just need to stop being assholes. Like you're driving along, like me. I'm driving along. Somebody pulls out in front of me, and I utter words that I wouldn't say in front of my mother at this person. Right now, I don't know what that guy's going through. I don't know what that woman's going through, but I've taken this snapshot, this 2-second snapshot of their life, and I've now applied to them that they're a moron. They can't drive. They're stupid. They are insensitive. They do not have need to have their license. They need to get out of my way because I need to get to where I'm going. That person could have just made one little mistake, and in 2 seconds I've already labeled them as the possessor of my ire. I hate that person now, right? But it's just a snapshot. Why am I being such an asshole? Like, why can't I just chill out? That guy pulled out in front of me. Ah, he pulled out in front of me. I got to slow down and I get to my destination a few seconds less than what I've been there, you know? But and I'm including me on this. Like, why can't people just not be assholes anymore? Just like with Trump and Biden and Harris and all this stuff, the political climate that we have, and people posting stuff up on Facebook and having conversations in person. Like, just stop being an asshole. Listen to the other person. Try to reason with them. Try to have a conversation with them, and like you're saying, have a little bit of emotional intelligence. Don't be an asshole.
Look, I mean, well, I will tell you, I I don't know if active listening is part of being emotionally intelligent, but it's effing hard